Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition and obvious brilliance and revelatory brilliance. All right, so basically we're approaching 6th edition, announcement that the work has begun. I'm a strong believer that the work has already begun. We've already learned from Pathfinder 2e. The Pathfinder 2e the building of Pathfinder 2e was worked on for 2 years before it was announced, right? So basically, when it comes to obvious brilliance versus revelatory brilliance, I want to talk about a few things here, and we'll bring it all around to Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. So first thing I want to talk about is Thundercats 2011. So Thundercats 2011 is a really special show. I really love this show. So I'm a fan of the original Thundercats, but then the show was rebooted in year 2011. The reboot lasted 2 seasons, and then it was swiftly canceled. Now, I watched it when it was on television in 2011 and in 2012. It was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I was also convinced at the time, still am convinced of this, that it was actually much better than the original. It was absolutely brilliant. Every episode was filled with either fun or philosophy. It was really, it was incredibly well animated. The characters, everything was character driven. It had complex plots. It was really fantastic. Okay. Now it failed. It utterly failed. It got 2 seasons and it sold no merch, right? It sold some merch, but very little, right? Most of the Thundercats toys just remained on the shelf. And the owner of the Thundercats project, they folded that thing up after 2 seasons, and that was all she wrote. Well, recently, the reason why I'm talking about it now is I just rewatched all 26 episodes, 13 in Season 1, 13 in Season 2, all 26 episodes of Thundercats 2011, the Thundercats 2011 reboot, and it was not easy to watch. So one, since it came on in 2011, it really has streamed nowhere, and so it was very difficult to watch, right? It was not easy thing to find. Well, they recently announced that they had it on Verve, and I went over to watch it for free on Verve, and you could not watch it for free on Verve. You had to pay a premium membership, and so I did. So I'm now paying $9.99 a month for the Thundercats that I just watched, but I was happy to do it. I rewatched all of it, and it was obviously brilliant. Obviously brilliant. So I believe that Thundercats 2011 was specifically canceled because the writers were just absolutely in love with the Thundercats show. And rather than treating it as a child show and filling it with a bunch of nonsense, they really crafted the best possible story they could. And they made an animated show that would be very, very enjoyable by an adult, but really wouldn't be enjoyed by a 5-year-old. Okay? It's one of the reasons why it's obviously brilliant, right? Is you can't, if you're going to pack in a bunch of, fart jokes, your project's not going to be that brilliant, right? And so, if you build a product for 5-year-olds or, 10-year-olds or even 13-year-olds, your product's not going to be that brilliant. It generally isn't. But Thundercats 2011 is brilliant. And the reason why is it's a story for the ages. It deals with pathos and bathos. It's really deep, right? But it failed because it was obviously brilliant. And this needed to be acknowledged, and they needed to, to really determine what they were going to do with this. So it was folded up. And I think the company that owned Thundercats 2011 really kind of set it aside because I think they understand that Thundercats is definitely primed for a reboot. People have been primed for a live-action film, and people have been waiting for it for a long time, right? And so that's one of the reasons why it was so hard to watch. But it was obviously brilliant. It didn't sell merch, but I think the few people who watched it really loved it, right? So, and here's my point. Things that are obviously brilliant are not allowed to persist. They are absolutely not allowed to persist by the masses. The masses will reject it. And once the masses have rejected it, there's really no money left, right? And generally, large companies are not going to allow these projects. They're not going to fund these projects, so they stop existing. So I want you to think right now, is there a show that you thought was absolutely brilliant that swiftly got canceled? Well, the reason for that is obviously brilliant things are not allowed to persist by the masses, okay? All right, Now, what's this got to do with Dungeons and Dragons, right? Well, here's where we learn just another layer of pure genius from Mike Mearls. So, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, why did it succeed, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons why it succeeded, and I'm going to talk about one reason today, and that is the difference between obvious brilliance and revelatory brilliance. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition contains the revelatory brilliance built into the game by Mike Mearls, and ejected from the game, removed from the game, whatever word you want to use, is the obvious brilliance of Monty Cook. Okay? Monty Cook is an obvious brilliance designer. Mike Mearls is a revelatory brilliance designer. Okay? So, basically, one of the events that I'm absolutely most fascinated with, and I'm convinced we still don't, I've literally talked to Monty Cook about this live on the internet. I asked him, hey, can you tell me about why you left the 5th edition team and what happened at that time? And he spun the same, what I believe to be a nonsense answer. He's like, oh, we had different visions and I just went on my way. And I really don't think anybody really knows the truth about why Monty Cook left the 5th edition design team and at the time. Now, what happened is Monty Cook, one of the brilliant designers from 3rd edition, was actually specifically brought onto the 5th edition team. He left in the middle of the design, okay? Now, I think the reason why he left, right, is he had a lot of ideas in his head. So if you want to know what 5th edition would have looked like if Monty Cook had been on there, you could see all those ingredients. They're in Cypher. They're in Numenera. They're in The Strange. They're in Predation. They're in Gods of the Fall, okay? Monty Cook has built one of the most successful indie tabletop role-playing games that has ever existed, which is Monty Cook Games. They do incredibly successful Kickstarters, Invisible Sun, all this stuff. Monty Cook is a very obvious genius, right? He really is. He is a game design genius, right? And basically, some of the things in there would basically the core of Numenera and The Strange, the Cypher system, is this idea of your adversaries being from level 1 to level 10, and then the difficulty for hitting a level 3 adversary is 9, 3 times 3. They have 9 hit points, right? And that's it. Like there's these really, really very simple, scaled down concepts within Cypher. The game is entirely brilliant, and it really is. It's the best universal tabletop role-playing game system out there, right? It's really, really good. It's fully replaced GURPS in every way. It's very strong. It's robust. And also, Monty Cook Games has built a universal system, which Wizards of the Coast, which has the #1 tabletop role-playing game in the world, has no universal system available to this date, right? That is current. That is right now being supported, right? And they had the Amazing Engine for a while. That's gone now. So all of that, is happening, right? So Monty Cook is he's an obviously brilliant designer, and the things he puts into his games are obviously brilliant. And I could go on and give you a lot more ideas on how Cypher is really, really brilliant. One of the things that's really brilliant about Monty Cook is he actually showed how you actually make a game profitable over the long haul, and how you use modern ways to spin nothing into something. He's really, really smart guy. Now, what about Mike Mearls? What did he do with 5th edition for revelatory brilliance, right? Well, so the things in 5th edition, design elements like advantage, bounded accuracy. Bounded accuracy is a perfect example. So bounded accuracy within 5th edition is revelatorily brilliant. Most people don't even understand that it's there. It's a design element that is completely hidden, right? The only people who understand about what bounded accuracy is are people who've done deep research onto what exactly is happening with it, with the math for 5th edition, right? And really paid attention, one or the other, right? And basically, the other thing is the playtest itself, listening to the customers and making sure that the most important things they said were there, but not most of the things they were said were being there, and allowing the design team to have input as well as the playtesters, and serving the playtesters as well as making the design members feel like they weren't doing nothing, right? All of this is revelatorily brilliant. So that's the point, is 5th edition contains the revelatory brilliance of Mike Mearls, and it does not contain the obvious brilliance of Monty Cook. And I think Mike Mearls brought Monty Cook in, and I think, those are two major designers. And I think Monty Cook, this is just all my supposition, I think Monty Cook didn't like the idea that his ideas for Cypher, which have been strong enough to support multiple games that have been proven to be very, very sound, right? Which I think are actually a much better design system than what Mike Mearls brought, right? If Monty Cook had been allowed to have his sway, I think what would have happened is we would have had a much, much better designed tabletop role-playing game than 5th edition, which would have been attractive to geniuses and really smart people, but would not have been allowed to persist by the masses, right? It would have been a Thundercats 2011, a brilliantly, animated written show. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition under Monty Cook would have been a brilliantly rules-oriented, I think a lavishly artistic book that would not have been allowed to persist by the masses, right? And here's the point. 6th edition cannot contain obvious brilliance and must contain revelatory brilliance at the macro level, right? You can sprinkle in a bit of obvious brilliance here and there, but the majority of it, the main thread of it, cannot be held up by obvious brilliance. It has to be held up by revelatory brilliance, and that is what is really unique and special about Mike Mearls' work. It is revelatory brilliance. Really, really interesting. I'm just really excited about what's going to happen with Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, and I'm putting this out there now because I really want there to be a record when we get to 6th edition announcement, and the work begins when I think the work has already begun in earnest, right? But when the robust work and the high activity begins, there needs to be a record of what should be in there and what should not. And absolutely, it cannot contain primarily obvious brilliance. It has to contain revelatory brilliance. Brilliance that is revealed over time. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you.